Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're breaking down the fascinating world of synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, and we'll see exactly how it's completely transforming everything from insurance payouts to global geopolitics. Let's just jump right in, because this technology is quietly changing how we see our world, literally turning the lights on in places that used to go totally dark.
Okay, so let's look at the fatal flaw of your traditional satellites. They're basically just occasional photography. Just like the human eye, optical satellites need sunlight. And yeah, they're completely blocked by clouds. I mean, over places like Northern Europe, total blindness is just the reality for most of the year. But SAR satellites, they bring their own flashlights. They actively pulse the Earth with microwaves and read the reflections, giving us true 24/7 persistent surveillance that works flawlessly through clouds, fog, smoke, even total darkness.
And this superpower is exactly why this once exotic, highly classified military tech is booming into a massive commercial commodity. To put this in perspective, we are looking at a market projected to hit a staggering $18.8 billion by 2034. It is not just a niche tool for national defense anymore. It's a massive industry rewriting the rules of global observation.
So, to unpack this massive shift, we're going to cover 1. The physics minus the math. 2. Enterprises, knowing first pays. 3. Institutions, uncovering ground truth. 4. Governments, a sovereign eye. And 5. The real challenge ahead. All right, starting off with Section 1, the physics minus the math.
Now, here is where it gets kind of wild. How exactly does a spacecraft the size of a washing machine fake being a massive kilometer-long antenna? Well, it's an active sensor. Step 1, it transmits microwave pulses down to the ground. Step 2, it records exactly what bounces back, both the strength and the specific phase of the wave. And step 3 is the real magic trick. By combining thousands of these echoes as the satellite flies along its orbit at blistering speeds, it synthetically creates an antenna that acts like it's huge. And this clever physics trick allows commercial operators, like Umbra and ICI's Gen 4 satellites, to resolve objects down to an astonishing 16 centimeters. Seriously, think about that for a second. We literally have commercial instruments orbiting in space that can clearly make out something the size of a small laptop on the surface of the Earth. It's incredible. Now, these physics grant 3 distinct superpowers. First, because it brings its own illumination, it always works. You can spot illegal excavations in the dead of night or during a massive North Sea storm. Second, because it measures phase shifts, a technique called INSAR can detect millimetric changes in the ground, like a bridge subtly sagging right before a collapse. And third, because metal reflects radar so intensely, rogue ships trying to hide by turning off their tracking beacons, they still light up on a SAR image like a Christmas tree. But, and this is a crucial fact to hold on to for later, SAR doesn't give you a pretty Instagram-ready picture. The raw data is grayscale, it's geometrically strange, covered in speckle artifacts, and honestly looks a bit like 1990s TV static. It's completely unintuitive if you don't have specialized training. Moving on to Section 2. Enterprises, knowing first pays. In the commercial world, time is quite literally money, right? And knowing things first is the ultimate advantage. Just imagine an insurer triggering a payout for flood damage while the storm clouds are literally still overhead, completely blocking the view of regular satellites. Infrastructure operators are using this as an early warning system to detect millimeter-level ground sinking near pipelines or dams before disaster even happens. Meanwhile, maritime and ag businesses are tracking port congestion and soil moisture through heavy monsoon clouds that make optical cameras completely useless. But there's a catch here. This is our first big caveat. Businesses do not want raw physics data. They want actionable answers. Remember that confusing TV static image we talked about? An enterprise has absolutely no use for raw phase histories. They need the analytics layer, a clean, processed map showing exact flood polygons, or an automated text alert. Bridging that gap between raw data and business insight is where the real commercial margin lives. Let's look at Section 3, Institutions, uncovering ground truth.
Open data initiatives like Europe's Copernicus Sentinel-1 are totally changing the game here. They empower journalists, climate scientists, and open-source researchers to monitor everything from rapid Amazon deforestation to covert military buildups and sanctions busting. For these institutions, SAR is all about discovering the objective ground truth without asking for permission. They get verifiable, all-weather evidence regardless of daylight or national borders.
But here is our second caveat.
And honestly, it has sharper teeth. Because radar literacy is so scarce, untrained researchers can easily mistake a processing glitch for a major event. When you hand incredibly complex, geometrically strange data to enthusiastic but untrained investigators, innocent speckle artifacts can quickly become confident but completely false reports of, say, an invading military convoy. Access to the data isn't the bottleneck anymore. Accurate interpretation is.
Which brings us to Section 4, Governments, a Sovereign Eye.
There is a massive geopolitical pivot happening right now in how governments actually buy this data. Look at the US model. The National Reconnaissance Office essentially rents time and capacity, buying subscriptions from commercial providers like Capella, ICIUS, and Umbra. But Europe? Europe is radically inverting this model. Nations like Germany, with a massive 1.76 billion euro Bundeswehr contract, along with Poland, Portugal, and Greece, are spending billions to directly buy or co-own their own physical satellites. They want national tasking authority.
To quote a major takeaway from the sources, European states are no longer just buying radar imagery. They're buying constellations. Let that sink in for a second. They aren't just buying pictures anymore, they're buying the whole infrastructure. The strategic logic for these governments is crystal clear. First, deterrence. If adversaries know they're watched continuously, even through the thickest winter clouds, they lose their window to exploit the weather. Second, verification. It provides arms control evidence that literally never blinks. And finally, autonomy. Avoiding reliance on foreign space infrastructure guarantees that a nationally owned constellation can never be throttled or shut off by an outside regulator. But that brings us to our third and most critical caveat. The government collection has simply outrun exploitation. Constellations are hitting sub-hourly revisit rates, generating way more data than any human analyst corps could ever screen manually. You could have an army of analysts staring at screens 24/7, and they'd still drown in the ocean of radar data flooding in. So let's wrap this up with Section 5, the real challenge ahead. The future of this industry is really balancing on a razor's edge. The bull case envisions SAR becoming basic infrastructure, priced like regular data, driving a market that easily more than doubles by 2034. But the bear case warns of overbuilding, where inflated defense spending masks soft commercial demand. Add to that the incredibly messy space law governance around tracking civilian infrastructure from orbit at 16-centimeter resolution, and you've got a recipe for some serious volatility. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If European sovereign surveillance is now essentially a software problem, like the platform VigilSAR addresses, who is going to build the AI to actually interpret this massive ocean of radar data? The satellites are already up there. The physics advantage is permanent. But whoever builds the software that can instantly read this strange data is the one who truly owns the future of Earth observation. The hardware war is basically over. The software war, it's just begun. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.